Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and this is a 23 Plaguefall. We are still Tyrannical, Bursting, and Volcanic. Sorry, I forgot. But it's the last day of the week, trying to get in a couple more keys, and we have a really good example of Plaguefall here where Discipline for the win. Mass Dispel really helps us time this key. We get off some incredible pulls, and we have a Druid to boot. So if you've ever watched any of my Tyrannical keys, I just love playing with Boomkins because it is so perfect for PI. And out of all the dungeons where a Boomkin single target really comes in handy, it's going to be Plaguefall. And then we have a Monk and Hunter. Both of those are going to be good trash PI targets. I think I favor our Monk, but I think our Hunter gets it at least once too. And yeah, we're about to get going here. Alright, so the first pull is the Make It or Break It pull. It is a Hail Mary where we pull all the slimes, relying on my one spell, Mass Dispel. So we get a Sneak Past. I Invis after I get the Roar. Gets us all the way through. Mind Soothe on Varuth. And start atoning before we enter combat. So this is an all-in pull, all defensive used. And I'm going to PI our Monk because he's going to be the best with AoE. Arcane Torrent to get those debuffs down. Start padding the group with a Rapture. I have to lay a barrier for everyone. I wall, Pain Sup myself, and Mass Dispel. So you really have to just get yourself through that fight. If you don't get a Mass Dispel off, it will be a complete wipe, and you can just use all your defensives on yourself. Pretty fun. And Boon has not been used yet, and we're on Varuth, where it's pretty hard to heal. So I go ahead and Schism Boon. We have Nova Blast. I work in a Radiance, so Blast, Radiance, Blast. And that's right before the Eruption, after Schism. Typically I would use Barrier there, but we had it used from the Slime pull. And we are set perfectly to get this dungeon going. All of our cooldowns are used in the group, but the next room is kind of our recharge moment. I couldn't tell if that hunter was in the way of the Belch, so I went ahead and gripped him. They're better when they're across water like that. Better safe than sorry? Alright, so this next pull is always a PI pull, and for AoE it's going to our 2-minute Monk. We have 10 seconds to Boon, so I open with my dots. I lay my PI, and Schism, and Boon. And for a group like this, it's going to be Nova Blast, watching out for the frontal, staying in 8 yards of all mobs. Quick Mass Dispel, 4 stack. I really don't bother Mass Dispel unless it's 4 or higher. It's pretty costly, and you can heal through a 3 stack, much less mana. I put my spectrometer on the wrong guy, but that's alright. I'll still Schism the Plague Bender and DPS him down. And we need the slime at the top of the hill, so you can play this punt game. You want to throw your punt when he stops to cast. Interrupts the cast, gets him moving. We're saving seconds here. And this is a pretty hard boss for the dungeon and for the week. We really have to play our spells right, and the way it goes is we have 1 spell per stop. And our Druid is our clear PI target. The best way to PI a Druid is with a slight delay, 4 to 5 seconds. And first round of cooldowns is going to be a barrier on top of that slime. I could have timed my barrier a little bit better, but that mechanic didn't come as quickly as I thought it would. No deaths though, so that's fine. Definitely want to use Schism on the other side of that stomp. I favor dispelling myself just because it's always good to protect yourself in a case like that. Regain your movement speed too. And this round is Rapture. I request our Innervate to make it free. And I Rapture on the front end of the stomp and the back end of the stomp. You want to divide the Rapture like that. And this was aggressive of me, but I went straight into Boon, even though we didn't have a stomp yet, but I still had Shadow Fiend. So I'm getting a couple atonements out. I'm waiting for my Schism, a Shadow Fiend, Schism, just to polish the boss off. Looks like I lost 2 seconds on Fiend, but that's okay. Boss 1 down. If you check the Druid's damage, that was really good. And for something like this, I lead with Fade, like always. I put my Spectrometer on the Plague Rock. And this is where our monk dropped a CD, which was really sad. This was a PI pull. I was ready and he was ready, but he held. So it's hard for me to give PI when it's not going to be full use. I could have ran it, but I really needed the monk to pop Zwin there. If you're a DPS player watching this, dropping a CD is a big mistake. You have to know when to use them and use them fully. You want as little uptime as possible. And for a pull like this, we have a little bit of time until the notable pull ahead of us, so I'm going to get Boon rolling. And one thing to note, since the monk held back there, that means my PI isn't rolling either. And his buff and my buff are both a hard 2 minutes each. So the best way to utilize this group is by rolling PI every 2 minutes with the monk. And we have loss on both sides now. And at this point, I think we hold until the big group ahead of us. So if you're watching this, you'll notice that by the time we use it, our cooldowns have been available for like 4 minutes. It's not good. I blamed the monk. And all the groups in this little hallway, they leave a disease dot when you're in 8 yards range. So just stand back. So here's our big pull. PI's available, boons available. PI our monk for the AoE. And you really have to be fast to act here. Our hunter got the root on him in the ground damage, so got a quick dispel. The tank reacted too. But I put Schism on the biggest threat here, got into boon. We have a Nova Blast pattern. And a mass dispel out of it. It was almost perfect, but our monk, I believe he was hit by a frontal. He says my B. Yeah, it was your B2 and you dropped that cooldown. And here we have Sagadon. Shadow Fiend is up. I Shadow Fiend Radiance. Follow in the Schism on the tail end of the Fiend. You always want to pair those two spells. And you want to cast Shadow Fiend first, so that you don't waste the global within Schism. Schism is a very short window, and you want to only be using your DPS spells, so have the Fiend running first. But Fiend is a 15-second buff to the 9-second of Schism, so you don't have to Schism immediately. You can Fiend, and then wait up to like 3 or 4 seconds, and then cast your Schism. Definitely want them to overlap though. Grip the monk out of there. I don't trust him at this point. I think the best spell for when you're chained is Holy Nova. You can cast it while moving, while you're getting gripped. You get good return on the damage and healing since everyone's grouped. You can kind of spam it while you walk outward. And this hallway is a little bit weird for cooldowns. Let's see what we do. Yeah, we go ahead and roll PI because there's no good place to use it ahead of us either, so we're just going to use it. And the best thing you can do here is Schism and practice your DPS rotation. Solace, Penance, Mind Blast, Death, Smite. And a really good play there would be if I had gripped the monk out of the air. He was in quite a bit of danger of falling into those bombs. If I had seen that, I should have gripped him after the tentacle let go. And we have a couple disease dispels in the group, so we get those haste reductions off. That's pretty cool. For a named mob like that, you always want to Schism just to help the DPS. And this is another little odd window for our cooldowns. We have boon available and we don't want to hold it, but this isn't the hardest pull right here, but I'm going to Schism and roll boon. Oh, I delayed boon. Okay, yeah, so I think I remember what happened. A volcano forced me to move, and then it was a good thing I delayed boon. So this is a pretty standard pull, but it does make it significantly harder. It adds so many mechanics that you have to monitor. We have the frontals, we have the ground damage, we have the roots, and we have kicks, and we have baits. So our Druid is going to have really full value here of his window, being that this is at least a 45-second pull. So I PI him. I get into my Schism and Boon, and toss in a Blast, Radiance, Blast. And we have a good bit of time before the boss, so I definitely want to use Shadow Fiend here and get the value. So Shadow Fiend followed by Schism. I've really been working on getting my uptime of Shadow Fiend down. I don't cast him enough. And we have one more pull before boss. Small pull. And yeah, if you're a Druid playing with a Disc Priest, if you're trying to make him happy, the best thing you can do is Wild Growth out of combat. No matter what's happening, it's just, it's the nicest spell. And it's bursting, so it's like really great. And so yeah, a group with a Druid, it's really best if you as the Discipline Priest manage their Innervate. A lot of Druids play with a weak aura that will intercept the request from chat and cue them to Innervate you. I use the add-on called ERT, where it lets me track their Innervate with the little icon which I place next to my player. And when you click it, it messages them. Really easy. So in a fight like this, the only thing that's going to wipe us is if we can't kill a bomb. So what you have to do is divide your cooldowns. Not everyone can pop on the same platform. We are not in Discord, but thankfully our Druid is in on how this is supposed to go. And he delays his cast. And since he's my PI target, I delay as well. This is the only time where it's acceptable to have uptime on PI. If you're paired with a Druid and it's a boss for Tyrannical, even if you lose a minute, it's better that way. Our cooldown is 2 minutes, theirs is 3, so there's just going to be a little bit of loss, but for a Tyrannical you definitely want to do that. Also, I could have booned in that haste puddle. That would have been really powerful, but there's no need. With these bombs, we really want them to get taken care of quickly, and boon really helps with that. So we have Bloodlust, which enables us to have a Blast, Nova Blast pattern. We get 2 more blasts that way. It's really powerful. And just push as much as you can here. This is the one opportunity we have to get in some DPS. I used Schism late. It was a little bit of a risk. You never want him to jump away with seconds left on your Schism and lose that value, but I got full value there. So now the Druid and myself are up. It's our turn to pop and blow up this bomb. So the best way to PI a Druid is with a delay. So I'm letting him get a head start on the bomb. I go ahead and cast my Shadow Fiend for the DPS and Schism. And here's where I queue PI. I added a little bit more of a delay there so that our Druid could get a lot of value from the PI on the boss, rather than just dumping it all into that bomb. And with those slimes, it's best when they're away from us, so we always have Shining Force and Fear. They have an aura that you don't want on the boss, so keep them away.
So you emerge victorious.
And the hunter is saying something to me about my Shadow Fiend. I'll have to double check what he means later. I put him on the bomb on purpose for the DPS. So I open with some dots. And for a pull with at least a couple mobs, I'm going to Schism and Boon. Yeah, that wasn't the best boon of my life, but I got into it a little bit late. I messed up my rotation. I might have had some lag and lost value there because I missed a couple globals. But get my dots out, get Schism out. Try and Sear a little bit, but this platform can be high damage. So Sear doesn't have nearly the HPS return that like Solace or Penance or Mind Blast would. It's mainly if you have a moment to DPS and you don't need heals, but on this platform we do need heals, so single target DPS, Penance, Solace, and Mind Blast. And the way this dungeon plays is we have one more round to fit cooldowns in before the boss. And Boon is coming up here in just a second. Refresh my atonements, refresh my dot, Schism, and Boon. Nova Nova Blast for 10 seconds. And I had enough time to get one more Shadow Fiend in, but this is what I'm talking about when I say I'm working on my downtime. I should have Fiend there simply because we have time to, not because we needed it. And I think I dropped a Shadow Fiend because of that. And for a group like this, we always gotta kill the Stealthlings, but this is our last PI. I give it to our Monk for the AoE. And this is where he was trying to hold his win again. I had to like let him know in party chat. So there he goes. He pops win. If you ever get a priest PI, you full send. And for those Stealthlings, we had some melee in range, so I went ahead and seared. If I was closer to melee range, I would have used Schism and Boon, but I didn't think I'd get enough value being so far away. And holding it for boss at this point isn't a bad idea. It's nice to be able to get it more than once on the boss. The best play for the spider boss is to boon the very first add phase and then go from there. always best to at least put your single dispel on cooldown there. There's no reason all 5 of you need to suffer from bursting. You can throw it on yourself if no one else to drink or mount quicker. And for our lenience talent and the shield itself, you want to pre-shield the target there and Schism Boon. We definitely want to damage the boss here, so I'm still using a Nova Blast pattern. And it's on me for the first time. I go ahead and use Wall. Pretty short cooldown, so it's nice to get that rolling early. So our hunter's targeted, I go ahead and put a shield on him. And for this round, I'm going to Shadow Fiend Schism Mindseer. It's enough passive healing that you don't really need to do much else for the tank, if done well. And our PI target pops, but we are targeted with the mechanic. I paints up myself for that one. I also get a bop from our tank. And coming out of the stun, I PI our Druid with just a little bit of a delay for maximum efficiency. And here's the third one. So a slightly better play there. You'll notice the Paladin and myself doubled up on defensives. He sacked me while I barriered, which proves to put me in a bind in just a little bit. But now I'm already keeping an eye on what I have as far as cooldowns. And for this ad phase, I opt to Rapture. In hindsight, I think I should have just healed through it with a Schism. And walled here, so it really came in handy that I was targeted that first time where I walled, so I got it rolling, and that was my second wall for this fight, keeping me alive. And here I'm targeted again, and this is where even at 100% health it was a one shot without a defensive. So in analyzing that as a playback, the only thing I could have done differently that might have saved me is reserved all my cooldowns for those targets, which means I would have needed to hold Rapture that one ad phase. If I had been able to Schism and just heal through it, potentially I could have Raptured myself before that shadow attack, and that larger shield would have been all I needed, since everything else was gone. Or if that Paladin didn't double up with me on that one pull, there could have been a better play. But nevertheless, it was right at the end of the fight. My death didn't really mean much, and we're moving on. So this is our last opportunity for PI, and I have to kind of instruct our monk here, just to make sure he's not trying to play games again. And we want to Schism the named mob, Nova Blast on him. And I opt to Mass Dispel just to get the cooldown rolling. You always want to focus the named mob. And for this round of bursting, I atone the group, Schism, get in some atonement healing, and then finish it off with a Rapture, just for protection. Don't have Schism yet, but I can still Sear. Pretty good return there. And I go ahead and Shadow Fiend to get him rolling too. We have one more chance before boss. Trail in a Schism for the increased damage. And almost got full value of Fiend there. So here's a little bit of a recharge moment for us. We backtrack for the slimes. And to be honest, this was an experiment pull for me. I have Boon available and wanted to see if a full value return of Boon would have my cooldown available by the time we got to boss or not. So this is 10 full seconds of Boon here on 3 mobs. I end with 114 as my cooldown. So I've played with most of this group before, just the hunter I've never played with, and I've had really good experiences with all these guys, and it made this run pretty easy. So Druid, obviously my PI target, PI is available, but Boon isn't. So I'm automatically thinking, what am I going to use for the first Acid Rain? I'm letting our Druid have a little bit of leeway, PI him with a delay, and barrier. So a very defensive play here. We're not wanting to use Pain Sup just yet. You can always dispel yourself, and this group has a lot of disease dispels, and we all just opt to protect ourselves there. So wait until it gets to a 4-stack and dispel. And that couldn't have been better. So since I PI'd my Druid at the top, we pushed that phase, and we didn't even get one Acid Rain there. Those adds can be really mean in melee, and since we're all having to kind of track through their melee range there, I went ahead and punted them. Also, I think our monk was safe there, but I don't trust him, so went ahead and got a quick grip on him, just to make sure. And here is our Boon phase, and we have Lust. So I toned the group with the tank last, I Schism, and Boon. And since we have Lust, we get the Nova Blast pattern. We get 2 more blasts this way, ton of healing, ton of DPS, and you see we pushed the phase even before Boon expired. Always want to dot those adds and push them as much as you can. They do need to die, and you need the DPS. So thinking ahead to the next Acid Rain, I'm going to use Rapture and Innervate. One of the downsides of Rapture is it's a lot of mana that you dump really quickly. So Rapture's 10 seconds, Innervate's 10 seconds, you do the math. Also utilize my Dispel, not forgetting to keep track of the tentacles. Redotting the adds, spreading 1 dot with Penance. Here's another Acid Rain, Shadow Fiend, Schism. So I'm thinking that our Druid might get 1 small CD window in here, so I'm delaying PI for him, hoping that he pops immediately, and he does, for the win. Alright, so didn't even get to use Pain Sup. So the only critique of the dungeon was we missed percent somewhere. Not a big deal. It didn't prevent us from timing the key, but does take away from the run a little bit. But we go to this first pack right here and finish it up. We don't have any cooldowns, but we only need to kill 1 mob. Yeah, the Paladin called me his favorite priest. So I said was my favorite Paladin. I think even someone called that we were short on percent, but we still went down early. Went into a boon just for fashion. Topped it off with a Cancel Aura boon. And that is our Plaguefall 23. It was a very good run. Everyone did exactly what they needed to. We completely outmatched it. And a Druid with PI is just so good in this place. Bosses here can linger and drag. And being a Tyrannical week, you really just need to push through that with the only single target class out there, which is a Boomkin. And if you take a look at the meters, I'm at the bottom of the avoidable damage, which is where you have to be as a priest, and I'm right at 3.1k damage per second, which is really good for this dungeon. I could have pushed a little bit harder, but 3.1 is still really good. And I've been having a lot of fun making these videos, and especially can't wait to make some more once we hit 9.2. I think Priest is in a really good place with our set bonuses giving us instant Shadowlands, and the synergy of our Power of the Dark Side with the Penitent 1 Legendary. We're just going to have one thing that we've never had, which is kind of like an oh shit button, and now we'll have an instant cast Shadowmend and a really powerful penance that can heal pretty much anyone to full. And it's really going to make us a competitive class moving into 9.2. I think it's going to be so fun, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. But yeah, until next time, everyone, Disc out.